Oh, well, hello there. Show Bobson Vergeen. Well, I can show you an England shirt, very apt for this for this video, and I just realised that I'm not actually on the video itself. Well, let me just find it. There we are. Now, for those of you who don't know, this video was made by the BBC, BBC Three to be exact, for the young'uns, for the teenagers, by a man called Kehinde Andrews. Now, who is Kehinde Andrews? Well, he is part. Well, at least if you can't see, if you can't already tell what this guy is, what he is a part of, what he's like by his avatar alone, and his even his. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Isn't this just the cringiest stuff you've ever seen in your life? We have nothing to lose but our chains. By a foundation founded by Malcolm X, a Muslim conservative, although he did go slightly more to the left before he died, but ever so slightly. But whatever. This is Kehinde Andrews. That's Malcolm X, because for some reason he can't show his face on his Twitter profile. I don't know why. Apart from maybe in this cover, but I can't actually see him. But whatever. Associate professor. He's a professor apparently for Black Studies. I didn't even know that was a thing. BCU. Is that let's see what that is. BCU, because I didn't quite have a look at that. Oh, it's just bullshit. He's not a professor. All right, this guy's not a professor. And this is a Black Unity, I think, chair of Black Unity UK. Black Unity was a organisation founded by Malcolm X way back. It's a black nationalist organisation. In case you didn't quite get the memo, in case you didn't see the whole, Black Unity thing. And I guess that's trying to, unify all black people unless those black people disagree with them. And this is them. This is it. An organisation of African American unity. Even though Kehinde Andrews is British, he's not American. I don't understand why there is a British version. Are they trying to unite all British people of African descent? Considering that we have many different types, unlike America. I mean, I know there are Caribbean people in America, especially on the eastern coast, but it's nowhere near as much, at least per capita, I would say, than Britain, where there is a difference between the Caribbeans and the Africans and other types. I don't know if we have other types, but I guess there are some other nationalities there. So how do you get a group of people who don't like each other? Because Caribbeans and Africans don't like each other. Well, you're not going to see them fight each other in the streets. It's more inter-community things, but there is some antagonism there. Caribbeans don't like Africans because of slavery, and I guess what else? I guess the Africans won't like them because of that antagonism. They're just like, well, whatever. Two different cultural groups. They're not the same, but apparently he wants to unify all black people in this country. And what about the mixed race people like myself? I mean, are we involved? Are we not involved? Because that's not really black unity if people who aren't really black are involved. But oh look, Wakanda. It's not even real. But so anyway, to get back on topic, the BBC are employing this guy for videos and for hell, even proper broadcasts, to lecture the country on racism. A black nationalist who is no better than a white nationalist. See, this is the problem with this world. For some reason, it's okay to be a black nationalist, but it's not okay to be a white nationalist, even though both are as retarded and racist as each other. Both do nothing but make the world a worse place. But apparently, according to the higher-ups, white nationalism, bad. Black nationalism, good. Okay. So anyway, this video it's almost out of date almost in its outlook, because I'm pretty sure since the Olympics, the flag as a racist symbol has kind of not really been as much of an opinion as it used to be. That's just my opinion. Because I remember after the Olympics and how well Britain did, and the flags everywhere, I thought, the stigma seems to have gone. Because there was a stigma for many, many years. Now, maybe in these circles, there is a stigma. But when you see Mo Farah, happily and patriotically, waving the British flag after winning gold, and all these other athletes doing incredibly well and doing the exact same thing, that doesn't make it look like something that's racist. That makes it something that we should be proud of, right? Because Mo Farah originally doesn't come from the UK. He came from Somalia over here as a young child and was born and raised as British, essentially. And look at him now. A similar person to that, although slightly different circumstances due to the Empire connection, though we did have Somalia as well, but I don't know which part of Somalia he's from, was John Barnes. He's from Jamaica. In fact, he arrived in the UK much older. I think he was 11 to 13 years old. He ended up being one of England's greatest players, one of our greatest rappers, and represented England at the highest level, and also played for one of the greatest English teams, Liverpool. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I hate Liverpool. But in the 80s and the 70s, they were one of the best teams, and he played for them. So it shows that, people like them can make that acceptable, right? Surely, if they're okay with that, then everybody else. Well, apparently not. But the flag's been adopted by the far right. Well, yeah, of course they adapted it. They're nationalists. That's what they do. They use it. They use it to sucker people and say, look, this is your country. It's been ruined. Blah, 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 blah. That's what they do. Of course they're going to use the flag. No shit. Now, it hasn't actually been adopted by them. They haven't taken the flag. The flag does not belong to them. It belongs to everybody. But I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. Now let's have a look at the chat. Who else is here? Show Bobs and Vergeen. You need to see Bobs. You've got bigger Bobs than me. God damn it. But anyway, so let's get on with this, shall we? Let's get on with this. Let me just check. Yep, everything's fine. It needs to go into proper HD, guys. I'm sorry. Fuck my life. I hate this guy. I really hate this guy. He hates the English flag. Absolutely hates it. Can't stand it. A flag that doesn't actually come from England, funnily enough. It has its origins in the Middle East. Although, the actual origins, some people say, well, we got it from the Crusades. Well, not really. Not really. It does have its origins there, but it was a religious symbol way before that, and it travelled around the Western world for a while. So, initially, it wasn't Richard the Lionheart that brought it back. It was actually it was his one of his successors, his descendants. It was Henry II, I think, because he was also part of the Crusade, and him and the French were both going to go, and the French were actually going to adopt the St. George's flag, as we now know, and we were going to adopt another one, but at some point it switched. So we went to the red cross and a white background, and they went to one that was a white cross in a either red or black background. I can't quite remember which one. But it swapped, and then that, in the 1200s, eventually became the English flag. Originally it wasn't, it was more the Norman flag with the 3 lions, which is now the official royal emblem of England, alongside the Harp of Ireland, or Northern Ireland as it is now, and the Scottish one. I forgot what that one was. I think it's the tree, isn't it? Thistle? Yeah, I think it's the thistle tree. And also the Welsh dragon, but I don't think that's really a thing. It's usually just 2 3 lions things to represent both England and Wales. That's where it comes from. And then also you have other countries or city-states like Milan, Genoa. They use the St. George's flag. That's quite a big deal in their country. In fact, you can even see in certain Italian football teams, the St. George's flag is kind of represented in their team jerseys. And then, of course, there's Georgia. Not the state of Georgia, but the country of Georgia. They have, 4 St. George's flags, technically, in their flag. Not racist when they use it, and they're white, like most English people, but I digress. But hey, he hates the English flag because it's adopted by the far right. I guess they can't quite title it Kehinde hates the English flag, although I have an opinion that maybe it was that title, but either they've changed it, or they realise, well, we can't have that because that's too incendiary. At this point, the BBC is just a propaganda outlet. God, isn't he just so full of himself? The way he carries it. There's something about the way he carries himself. He's so full of it. I guess it's just what black nationalists are like. I just...
Please stop flying that terrible flag everywhere.
Please stop throwing that flag everywhere, that terrible flag. But it's okay to use a Scottish flag. That's okay, apparently, or the Welsh flag, but not the English flag. Now, the English can't be proud of their own country. We can't be proud of our own country, Kehinde, because you technically are English. You were born and raised here. You've got the accent and everything. But hey, apparently we can't be patriotic. We can't be patriotic and not be racist. No, you can only be nationalistic and racist if you use our flag. You are the poster boy for everything that's wrong for the alt-right. Like, they would use you as an example of these guys are taking over your country and trying to ruin and remove your culture. You are that guy. Your flag is racist. Yes, Crystal Philosopher, it is racist. It is racist.
My name's Callum. I'm here to argue in favour of the England flag.
Of course they had to get somebody with a skinhead who's blue-eyed and looks a bit like a chav. I mean, to be fair, at the very least, he's got a nice shirt on and he seems well-spoken. But they can't get a normal-looking person with normal hair like me. In fact, they have to get a white person. Why can't they just get a mixed race card? I mean, I could easily... I mean, I'm not that fussed on the actual English flag itself. I'm not. All right, do whatever you want. But I could still do that argument. I could still be that guy. But they never will. They won't bring another person who's okay with it, who likes it, unless they're white and they look like a chav. And he keeps walking around draped in it. I can't tell if if the BBC are trolling him or he's just decided to do that. And the challenge, okay. What?
I cannot for the life of me see why our national flag should not be flown by a great majority of good, honest and decent people of this country, and I feel some people have an agenda to stop this. We shouldn't relinquish the St George's Cross and be demonised in our patriotism for doing so.
I agree, especially as it doesn't just represent those racists and nationalists, well, the nationalists that are racist, that is, who use that flag. It represents everybody. That's the point of a flag. It represents everybody. And it's just a flag. It's nothing more than a symbol to denote to another country, another peoples, that this is who we are. That's really all it boils down to. It's just a flag. And it's the flag that's used by many different peoples across the world. Only we're the only country that uses it as a national symbol. Apart from Georgia. But, let's continue.
There's a kind of arrogance that ignores what this flag has been used for.
Nobody has denied what it's been used for, but I don't understand how that's arrogant. The only person I see being arrogant here is you, bringing up the past. Stuff that isn't really relevant anymore. But let's see what he brings up. Okay, shot for Crusades, shot for the British Empire, which, by the way, the English flag wasn't used for. It was the British flag, because by that time, England wasn't a sovereign nation. It's now, well, part of Britain. It's part of Scotland, Wales, and Ireland at the time. So let's see. Take a shot for any of the stereotypical points that these lot love to bring up.
And the history of actually its usage in this country. We remember the National Front flying the St George's Cross, and really this flag has come to represent something like the Confederate flag in America.
Only by people like you. Only you who have allowed that reputation to be brought upon it. You are the lot who decided that, yeah, that's their flag, not our flag. You are the ones who said it's racist because these people use it. Even though you could easily use it yourself and say this is a flag for unity rather than a flag for division. And so what? The NF used that. They used Scottish flags, they used Welsh flags. You know they were a British-wide organisation, right? They weren't just limited to England. They used all sorts of nationalist and national symbols to create the idea that they're for the white population. And they also use the British flag. But hey, apparently you're going to ignore all that and just focus on the English flag. The English flag is bad because some bad people used it. That's not very good logic. That's terrible logic. You could easily adopt that flag yourself, but you won't. Because it's not about English culture. It was about your own black nationalist culture. That's what you want.
Where it's a very narrow, very white, very English nationalism. And if I see this flag on a pub, it means to me, don't go in.
You're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. You're still living in the 1960s and 70s, where perhaps possibly a pub like that would be a place where you don't go in. But by the way, in the 1950s and 60s, they would literally have signs saying, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs. Yes, even white people were victims of racism, or whatever you would call it. Is it racism? It's white versus white? Meh, doesn't matter. You would actually have a sign telling you not to go in, or they would tell you to fuck off. The flag being flown or just being shown in the pub does not mean that you are not welcome. Especially in this day and age where anybody can go anywhere. But apparently not.
So we can't just ignore the fact that this flag has been adopted by the far right, and that is why it is actually quite exclusive.
How? How exactly is it exclusive because a certain part of the population has used it for their own nefarious means? Reclaim it then. But again, it's not about that, is it? He's not interested in English culture. He's not interested in English people. And I'm saying English people regardless of race. But he's only interested in his own agenda. He's only interested in making Britain into his own little safe space. That's what he's interested in. But let's see what the white guy's retort is.
Do you not think that by allowing such a small minority of the country to take this flag off a large proportion of the country who feel very strongly that it is their flag, I think it's very oppressive. It's quite insidious to take the flag off so many people. It didn't have any of those connotations beforehand.
Well, actually...
Oof. Oof. He was getting really offended by that then. You could see him. His eye was twitching. He was getting really, really annoyed at that because that's a really good point. Because the flag didn't actually have those connotations until the far left put them on it. Now he's going to turn around and bring up, history that's long gone. I mean, don't get me wrong, the NF, the National Front, are long gone. They're not a thing anymore. They're not around. That was old history. I mean, recent history in comparison to what he's probably going to bring up in a bit, but again, that doesn't mean it's racist. That just means racist people have used it. But I don't know. Let's have a look at you guys. What do you think of this? Why the fuck is everyone streaming? I'm gonna miss out on the Sargon and Lewis. Yeah, I can watch it in a bit. You know how long Sargon and Lewis stream together? Anti-flag guy sound like a stapler guy from Office Space. Well, I don't know what Office Space is, so that's kind of neither here nor there. But anyway, let's continue. Let's see what this guy has to say.
Did it not have any other connotations when they were flying this flag during the Crusades and going?
They didn't fly it during the Crusades, and the Crusades was not about race. The Crusades was about religion. We were going out there fighting, not really we, it was more Christianity in general, so, the Orthodox Christians, or rather the Eastern Christians of the Byzantines, the Germans, or rather the Holy Roman Empire. There was no German flag back then, just loads of different ones. The French, which had a different flag back then as well. They were using the fleur-de. Oh, God, I should remember these terms. Oh, the fucking... Every time without fail. He's a bit late, actually. They all used these different flags. They didn't just use the St. George's flag, and it depended on also what part of the Crusaders you were a part of. You could be a Hospitaller, you could be a Templar, who all had different flags. Even the English people who went there weren't necessarily fighting for the king, but for their own, convictions, and would have actually flown maybe the coat of arms of their family or the lord that represented them and who brought them over. This is the feudal system. It wasn't just the English flag, and again, it was there to fight against Muslim expansion and to reclaim the Holy Land, because the Muslims, until agreements were settled much later on, were removing the Christians' rights to go on pilgrimages to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, because that's also their holy place. Not up there with Mecca and Medina, but it's still up there. And they were stopping people from going there because they'd conquered it from the Byzantines. And the Pope ordered people to reclaim it so that these pilgrimages could continue. And also to protect Christians as well from Muslim raiders and invaders. It wasn't a war about race. It wasn't England going over there to conquer. It was there to reconquer, or to the very least, help the Byzantines, although in the end the Crusades became more about personal things than religious and other shit like that. But to say the English flag is racist because of that is absolutely absurd, because the Crusades were not about race.
Going around through Muslim countries trying to convert them.
The Muslims are the ones trying to do the converting. I don't know if you have any idea what Islam actually is and what actually happened and who actually provoked the wars in the first place. Because you're forgetting something. As I already mentioned, the Muslims conquered that from other Christian nations. Like, how can you say that it was the English who were the only people going over there? In fact, the first Crusade, there may have been some English people, but it was largely Normans, French, and God knows who else who were leading that. And the Crusaders who were part of the Crusader states were not English, they were French and German. Not English. The English flag had nothing to do. In fact, we weren't even flying that flag at that time, as I've already mentioned before. So you're wrong. You are wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about. And it's funny how you mentioned arrogance. When you have the arrogance and the gall to speak about things that you think you have a clue about when you don't. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, guys.
Did Englishness not have these things when they were flying it, when they were trying to enslave my ancestors?
We didn't fly the English flag during those times. Unless you're counting the 1500s, which then I'll grant you that. But we also flew the British flag when we were liberating your ancestors, or the very least people after your ancestors. My ancestors were probably slaves, but I don't blame the flag for that, and I don't blame people who are alive today for that. Because one, I don't really know any people from that side of the family, but also, what's the point? It's sins of the father type shit that we need to get over.
Did it not have these connotations when it was flown around the colonies?
Not really. It didn't. And besides, we know that black people also owned slaves in the Americas and in the Caribbean. If they were rich enough to afford land and slaves, they did. This is a fact. And I'm sure if they gained citizenship, they also would have flown that flag. Because that was the way the world worked back then. That is in no way something that can reflect upon us today. Can you at least come up with something vaguely modern? And I don't mean the 70s and the 60s. I mean now. That could help your argument. Because right now you're not. You're going back into the past. So far back that it has no real relevance to today.
The reason why the English flag has been picked up by the far right, it isn't just this tiny minority.
British cultural...
Oh, so it's not a minority, it's the majority, even though, again, a minority of people within the British Empire and England owned slaves. And in fact, in England itself, you could not own slaves. If a slave set foot on England, English soil, I don't know about Scotland and Wales, or maybe Wales too, they would be free. And there is evidence of that, because there was a big, huge court case about that. And it was, funnily enough, William the Conqueror that made it illegal, not because he didn't like slavery, he just did it for some kind of economic... I don't know why. I mean, nobody really knows why. We assume economic reasons, but that's what happened. Yeah, so apparently the English flag is racist, even though in England slavery was illegal. Maybe not in the colonies, but in England it was. Again, he knows nothing. He knows nothing. What aren't they going to deem racist nowadays? Very true. But this is a thing that's always been there. Angry Emu, they've always said the English flag and the British flag are racist. But they never say the Scottish flag is racist, and they never say that the Welsh flag is racist. I guess they kind of view them as oppressed, even though they're not. Nationalists. It's okay. He's a black nationalist. So how come it's okay for him to be nationalistic about his race, even though his race are as divided as white people are, in their own countries, in their own tribal groups, in their own religious groups? How come it's okay for him to do that, but it's not okay for the English? Is it because they're white? Or is it because he just doesn't like English people and culture? I don't... It's just the hypocrisy. But let's see what a white boy has to say.
Identity is not based on the Crusades. It's, in fact...
For some, it definitely is, actually. I think this war against Islam, the war against... They're still there.
Only because Islam is currently bombing us. That's because they started this current wave of terrorism. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you know that. Started with 9/11, although you could argue it started with the Lockerbie bombing, maybe, or even the Iranian embassy, though that was less to do with religion, more to do with the Iran-Iraq war. Maybe we were on Iraq's side as well. But regardless, Islamic terrorism has been a problem for us long before the Iraq War. And we went in there because of WMDs and regime change. We didn't go in there because we hated Muslims. We went in there because we needed to change Saddam Hussein because he was no longer useful to the Americans and the Brits. Not because we hate Muslims. And how is that in any way because our culture is based on the crusade? How can a culture, unless it was the Crusader states themselves, based on crusades? By the way, what does that say about the Islamists and the Muslims? Their culture, their religion is based on jihad, at least part of it. It's kind of funny how you interrupt him for doing that, and he was politely not interrupting you, apart from saying one word. It's not. Oh, I guess you would then say, what about the people dressed up as knights in World Cup games and other England games? Well, they're trying to be Richard the Lionheart, who is a national hero. And by the way, again, he didn't go and do the Second Crusade because he hated brown people. He did it because he thought he was protecting Christians from an invader, which he was. But whatever. Let's continue.
The real question is, why do you feel so connected to this flag? I mean, it's just it's a flag.
So, then why do you hate it so much? How dare he ask that question when he says he hates it so much? He could that white boy could literally turn to him and say, "Well, you're asking me that, but why do you hate it so much? Why do you think it's racist so much? It's just a flag. It's just a flag, guys." The cheek of him.
If you understand the history of this flag, you understand why it's so offensive to me.
You know, it's funny how he can only say the negative things that has been done in the name of it, or what he claims to be done in the name of it, and ignores all the good. So, I don't know. Protecting ourselves from the Spanish Armada, we flew that flag. You know, you would be speaking Spanish now, and you'd probably still be a slave. You would still be a slave if the Spanish had won the Spanish Armada. Just saying. If they'd invaded us and conquered us, yep. That could be a potential thread of history. Because it was the British who made slavery illegal throughout the world. Just so you know. What else? Well, we didn't fly it in World War II, World War One, but we did. But we did fly the British flag, and the English flag is represented on that flag. We were stopping German expansionism in World War One, and also we were stopping Hitler in World War Two. Apparently that's still a bad thing because it's the English, is it? And what else? I'm trying to think of other wars. Maybe even creating the Bill of Rights, creating what would now become modern democracy, modern systems of government. That was formed and created through the English flag in the 1500s and 1600s. There are good things you can accommodate to that flag, that you can say, yeah, these things were done under the name of this flag. But no, you'll ignore all that. You'll ignore all the things that people did and just that were good, and concentrate on the things that are bad. Okay.
Millions of people in this country. Just pick a new symbol. Why does it have to be this?
Yeah, but then you'll say that symbol's racist, won't you? And what symbol do you think is not racist? This is the symbol that represents the English and the Georgians. This is our symbol. We can't just change it. It'd be like me telling you to change. I don't know if he's African or Caribbean. I think he's Caribbean because he's called Andrews. So wherever your ancestors came from, if I said to them, "Oh, I don't like that because, it ruined the empire or something, change your flag," you would be offended. That's racist. That's culturally insensitive. I have to be sensitive to him because he's black and he finds my flag our flag. It's not just my flag, it's his flag too. Offensive. God.
Particular flag.
What would be your proposition of a new symbol then? Would you just ditch the England flag?
Well, I mean, I'm probably the worst person to ask. What is...
Because you don't have any idea. You don't care. You've not thought about this. It's just about removing something that you found offensive. Because you want to change the culture into something that's more in your image. You just want to turn the place into a fucking Nation of Islam type place. That's what you want. That's what you are. And I can see why he would be defending the Muslims. Because he probably is one. Because so was Malcolm X. I might be wrong on that. He might be a Christian for all I know. But it makes sense, guys. black nationalists and Islam, they do go hand in hand for some strange reason. You know, Islam isn't actually a black religion. It's weird.
Britain, what is this idea of empire and...
Empire, we've come a long way since empire, I think, this country.
And the empire did some good things as well as bad things. Again, it's this black and white, excuse the pun, black and white view of history where it's either good or it's bad. Like, no, it's a shade of grey. The British Empire did good things, it did bad things. The Mongolians did good things and bad things, believe it or not. They created possibly one of the greatest ever road systems since the Roman Empire. They could literally get across to different places within a week in the medieval era. Also, funnily enough, the environment, they were very good for the environment, killing all those humans. That's a joke. That's a joke. But yeah, all empires have done horrible things and good things. But again, the British Empire did not fly the English flag. It flew the British flag that we still use today. And before that, it was the one before Ireland, with the red stripes in between. But it's attributing the English flag to things it didn't actually do. Or was flown for. Like, it's just... He's retarded. And again, I like how the guy got him there with that question. What would you replace it with? Oh, I don't know. I'm the worst person. Yeah, of course you are.
Is built now on inclusivity, freedom of speech, respect for the law.
Well, well, not really. But it may have done at one time or another. But that's just that guy's opinion on it. And this is his opinion. But whatever.
I am actually quite surprised that I didn't turn around. I think I showed quite a lot of self-restraint, which is not usual for me.
Your accusations of...
Yeah, you usually autistically screech, don't you? And there's a reason why you can't turn around.
Empire and the Crusades to normal people sound frankly ridiculous.
To white people, that might sound ridiculous.
To whites, that is ridiculous. No, even to other black people, that would be considered ridiculous. Take it from me. Even they don't go around thinking about these things and thinking that they're oppressed. They go around and do things they want to do. And a lot of them are England supporters and Scotland supporters and Wales supporters when it comes to England and shit in like the Commonwealth or rugby or football. Mainly football. They would support England. So that it would be ridiculous to them. Notice how the white guy can only think in terms of people. Just people. Doesn't matter their skin colour. He's just thinking about normal people, because normal people are normal people. He can't stop thinking in terms of white people, black people, things like that. He is the divider. He is the racist. He is what he projects onto the English flag and even onto the... I mean, he's no better than the NF. He literally comes from their mirror image. Let's see what the chat has to say. The Scots have Nazi pugs. Very true. War against Islam is a righteous war. The Crusades, they started off with an interesting cause, but then it degenerated because they ended up sacking Constantinople before the Ottomans did. So the Crusades, you know, it's a bit more complicated. But right now, yeah, of course, it is more righteous than the Crusades. Mark Collett would call for this guy to get kicked out of the... I don't know who he is, but nah, I mean... To be fair, I wouldn't kick Kehinde out because he is British, but he might as well just leave. I mean, what's the point? Why people get off my lawn? It's bourgeois cunt. Come on, let's continue. Not you, Crystal, this guy, but, you know, God, I hate this guy.
But the normal people that I know, that sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, you don't know normal people. You only know your black nationalist and cooked white friends. They're not normal people.
So actually, I don't accept that things have got massively better. And actually,
well, of course not. Not when you see racism everywhere. Of course. It's not like we live in the most inclusive time to be British. We do. Racism, unless it's racism towards whites, is going down against minority groups. And regardless of what you think about Brexit, that was not a racial thing. I mean, why would it be? We're literally seceding from other white people. And despite that, it wasn't anything to do with right or left, or who we deem as English. I think it's pretty clear that most people would still want legal immigrants here. We would still like these Italian people to come over and work. We would still like these Polish people to come over and work as long as it's legal and we get to determine who can and cannot enter. which seems reasonable enough, right? No, apparently not. Things haven't gotten better since Stephen Lawrence, even though the police have turned the page so much that now they are in the opposite direction. Whereas before they wouldn't give a shit about a black youth bleeding to death. But now they'll try to resuscitate a black youth dying and then get blamed for his death. I'm talking about Rayshan Charles, by the way. Even though Rayshan Charles was the one who swallowed the thing in the first place, which ultimately caused his death. And they tried to save him. It's amazing, isn't it, guys? You see what I mean? Nothing's perfect for these guys.
See, I think this kind of Britishness, Englishness identity is part of that problem.
Oh, so English culture is now part of the problem. That's why so English people are just, because of who they are and the culture they're a part of, they're intrinsically racist. They just have to be racist. They were born racist. That is a racist statement. And by that logic, you being brought up in our culture, you are a racist. So again, it's just projection. Because of his ideology and what he has been brainwashed to believe, he is a racist. But he's projecting that onto English people, even though it was English people who, you know, freed slaves, who made slavery illegal in this country before it was cool in 1066. Well, he was French, okay, whatever. But do you see the point I'm making here? Our culture is not racist. There are elements of people within this culture who are racist. There were, perhaps at various points in history, by our standards, racist, that weren't racist at the time, because remember, he's judging history based on modern standards, or rather his own standards, when you can't do that. That's not how history works, not how historiosity, how you view history works, how you analyse it. But, you know, I could go on, but I'd rather just end this stream soon, because I need to go and get my tea, so... Bloody hell.
Probably be an ethnic minority. I'd be probably surprised me, but I don't know.
Mate, you're at the BBC, it's not going to be a minority. I mean, I guess if he's working class, he'd technically be a minority. Or if he's of gypsy stock, but he's just normal English, that's what he is.
You want to turn around?
Yeah. Nice to meet
you. And you got the flag on as well?
Yes. No, I don't think I changed his opinion.
I doubt I changed.
Of course you didn't change his opinion. This guy is an ideologue and you are just a normal person espousing what is the normal, I would say the normal opinion of the English flag of this day and age. And I say continue to do what you're doing. You have literally reclaimed the flag and brought it back to what it used to be. So I applaud that guy. I know I've been calling him the white boy, but I've just been taking the piss. But well done, lad.
Changed his mind very much. He came in wearing an England flag, and I think he left wearing an England flag around his shoulders.
Yeah, why should he abandon his culture because you feel offended by it? Even though it's also your culture. Well, you abandoned this culture because you've been brainwashed, but whatever. I mean, I've never known a culture really that is more accepting of people. Even when we get invaded by them, like the Normans, well, the Anglo-Saxons themselves, and then integrate the good things and get rid of the bad things. I mean, I've never known a more accepting culture. English culture is a mongrel culture. We are a culture that builds upon things and incorporates things. Fish and chips is not an English thing. It's a Belgian dish, actually. And we incorporated that. The word khaki is actually Indian. We've adopted even their cultural dishes and created our own curry dish, chicken tikka masala, not to be confused with chicken tikka. Our culture literally is adopting things from other cultures and making them better. Or putting our own spin on them. I don't understand how we can be considered a racist culture. We're not. We're not like the Japanese. We're not like the French. We're not. And that's probably is because we were a country, because of where we are in the world and what it was like back in those days. We were invaded consistently. So it stands to reason that we'd be very good at adapting. And there's no reason why we can't do the same thing now with other cultures coming in. But we fucked it up. And we have to change it. We have to be more. Well, we have to rather force them or they go. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. That sounded wrong, but you know the point I'm trying to make, guys. English culture is not inherently racist. It's the opposite. It is inclusive because of what's happened before.
I feel that the England flag is still a great symbol of England.
Sometimes
And Georgia.
the difference of opinion is just too great.
And just to clarify, I don't wear my England flag all the time.
At the very least, he was well spoken, that guy. And at the very least, the BBC did offer us the second opinion. No, I do think that Kehinde got far more screen time than that guy. And even though he spoke utter drivel, I don't know. I mean, oh, right. Individualism, egalitarianism needs to be done away with to save the West. Yeah, because that's the thing that built the West. It should be done away with. But see, that's the thing. Like, these authoritarian right wingers, they claim they want to, protect and conserve these cultures, but they'll do away with everything that makes these cultures what they are. That's what I don't get. But anyway, this is it. The English flag is racist to this guy. I think his view is now the minority, although I think 20 years ago, hell, even 10 years ago, it would have been perhaps the majority of a lot of people. But now, I think it is more acceptable to fly that flag, regardless of where you come from and where you are. And I think that, yeah, normal people, regardless of race, don't seem to care as much now. And to be honest, the flag is what you make it to be. The flag can be used for anything. At the end of the day, it is just a flag. I myself, I'm not really much of a nationalist. Not really a patriot. I mean, I can get patriotic, but it depends on what I'm passionate about in this country. So free speech, things like that. Yeah, I get patriotic about that, but I don't wave flags. I'm not a flag waver, really, apart from Kyrgyzstan. But it's, oh no, I'm not saying all right wingers don't believe in individualism. Angry. That's not the point. I'm talking about a specific group. I don't know if you missed that, but anyway, yeah, like I don't care. If I'm at an England match, which I don't really like international football, and I don't really follow the England team as much as I used to, because I'm just apathetic towards it. Not because it's England, but because, one, we've been let down over and over again by the players, and the press make it really toxic to support it, because they just make the whole thing worse, when we should just be following the team and encouraging them, and when we fail, we fail. But, yeah, I don't hate England. I don't hate the team. I don't hate the country. I like it. I wouldn't want to be born anywhere else. So yeah, I'm just filling time for you guys. I think I'll end it there. It's been fun. Kehinde Andrews is a retard. Nothing more there. I can't believe this guy still gets a fucking platform. I'm not saying remove it, but it's obvious that if we don't give white nationalists a platform, right, then why should we give the black nationalists a platform? Either we give them all a platform to, spout their views so we know who the crazies are, or we don't. It can't be, oh, black nationalists only, white nationalists not, unless we really need to bring them on. It's either all or nothing. I would rather say all, so that the British public know who to avoid, rather than nothing at all, because then that creates an echo chamber. That isn't for free speech. Anyway, guys, I'll see you later.